Hey there, history enthusiasts. Welcome back to our channel World History Explored. Today, we've curated a rich and engaging narrative about the beautiful tapestry that is the history of Slovenia. We are going to unravel centuries of fascinating events right here, amidst the mesmerizing landscapes of Slovenia. Before we dive in, we urge you to watch this video in its entirety, as every moment is a learning experience that will help you appreciate this gem of a country much more. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like this video, and ring the bell to stay updated with our upcoming explorations. Slovenia, a country nestled in the heart of Europe, amidst the rugged Alps and the mysterious karst region, holds an engaging historical narrative that dates back to the early Slavic settlements in the 6th century. Before we delve into the rich tapestry of Slovenia's history, let's talk about the etymology and meaning of Slovenia. The name itself holds a story that paves the way for our exploration today. The term, Slovenia, etymologically means the land of the Slavs. Although the precise origin of the name, Slav, remains veiled in history, it's a proud identifier for the ethnic group residing here. The suffix "n" in Slovenia forms a demonym, creating a beautiful linkage between the land and its people. So, each time you pronounce Slovenia, you're resonating with a historical identity stretching back centuries. Quite intriguing, isn't it? Now with this intriguing tidbit, let's start our journey into Slovenia's remarkable past. Prehistory to Slavic settlement. Starting from the last glacial period, the lands of present-day Slovenia were inhabited by Neanderthals. This ancient chapter is vividly brought to life by significant archaeological finds such as the Divya Babe flute discovered near Sabrelia, which is considered the world's oldest known musical instrument. Another remarkable discovery was made near the Ljubljana marshes, where the world's oldest securely dated wooden wheel and axle dating back to around 3150 BC were unearthed. Transitioning from the Bronze Age to the Iron Age, the region saw the flourishing of the Urnfield culture, followed by the Hallstatt culture, which left behind a treasure trove of artifacts. Notable settlements from the Hallstatt period emerged in Most na Sochi, Vachi, and Sentvid pri Stikni. Novo Mesto, often referred to as the City of Situlas, due to the significant number of situlas found in the area, became one of the most crucial archaeological sites representing the Hallstatt culture. As we advance to the Iron Age, Illyrian and Celtic tribes made their mark on the region until the Romans conquered it in the 1st century BC. The Roman legacy in Slovenia was profound, with the establishment of provinces like Pannonia and Noricum and the creation of significant settlements such as Emona, Selea, and Poetovio. The migration period brought a wave of barbarian invasions due to Slovenia's strategic position as a passage from the Pannonian Plain to the Italian peninsula. This tumultuous period led to the abandonment of many settlements, and the remaining populace sought refuge in highland areas, establishing fortified towns. In the following centuries, the region became a battleground contested among the Ostrogoths, Byzantine Empire, and Lombards. The Slavic settlement in the 6th century marked a turning point in Slovenia's history. The Slavic ancestors of modern-day Slovenes, coming from two directions, north via today's East Austria and Czech Republic, and south via today's Slavonia, settled in the East Alpine area. They initially fell under Avar rule but later joined the Slavic king Samos tribal union in 623 AD. King Samos' reign fostered a collective Slavic identity that later laid the groundwork for the establishment of the Principality of Carantania following his death. This rich and multifaceted historical journey laid the foundation for modern Slovenia, a nation with a deeply rooted historical identity shaped by diverse cultural influences, ancient civilizations, and strategic geographical significance through the centuries. Each period, from the ancient Neanderthal inhabitants to the Roman conquest and the Slavic settlement, adds a unique layer to the intricate historical narrative that continues to shape Slovenia's national ethos and cultural heritage. The Middle Ages. In 745 AD, amidst the reconsolidated power of the Avars, Carantania and other Slavic populated territories within present-day Slovenia, came under Bavarian overrule. Consequently, they were incorporated into the Carolingian Empire, a significant event which also saw Carantanians and other Slavs in the region converting to Christianity. Between 745 and 795 AD, the eastern part of Carantania was once again ruled by the Avars. Carantania maintained its internal independence until 818 AD when an anti-Frankish rebellion led by Ludevit Posavski resulted in the deposition of local princes. This shift in power dynamics led to a predominantly Bavarian ascendancy. Under Emperor Arnulf of Carinthia's reign, Carantania, now governed by a mixed Bavarian Slav nobility, briefly emerged as a regional power. However, this position was short-lived as Hungarian invasions in the late 9th century disrupted the region's stability. A notable change occurred in 976 AD when Emperor Otto I re-established Carantania Carinthia as an autonomous administrative unit within the Holy Roman Empire. Transitioning to the late 10th and early 11th centuries, in response to the Hungarian threat, the southeastern border region of the German Empire was organized into marks. This organizational shift laid the foundations for what would become the historical Slovenian lands of Carniola, Styria, and the western Goriška, Gorizia. The unfolding of these lands' consolidation and formation spanned from the 11th to the 14th century, driven by influential feudal families such as the Dukes of Spanheim, Counts of Gorizia, Counts of Celje, and eventually, the House of Habsburg. The evolution of a distinct Slovene ethnic identity began to take shape during this period. Though this dominion was briefly challenged by the Counts of Celje in the 15th century, by the century's end, the Habsburg monarchy had firmly incorporated most Slovene inhabited territories. Notably, Slovenes formed the majority population in Inner Austria, particularly in the Duchy of Carniola and the County of Gorizia and Gradiška, as well as in Lower Styria and southern Carinthia. Furthermore, Slovenes had a significant presence in the territory of the Imperial Free City of Trieste, although they represented a minority of its population. This intricate interweaving of Slovene identity amidst broader political shifts marked a pivotal phase in the rich narrative of Slovenian history, sowing the seeds for a burgeoning national consciousness that would continue to mature in the subsequent centuries. Early modern period. The 16th century brought about a wave of religious transformation across the Slovene lands through the Protestant Reformation. This influential movement was led by figures like Primož Trubar, whose literary endeavors in the Slovene language paved the way for the emergence of a standardized Slovene vernacular. This era saw a flourish of Slovene literature, most notably the complete translation of the Bible by Jurij Dalmatin. However, the counter-reformation that followed during the late 16th and into the 17th centuries, orchestrated by Bishop Thomas Kron of Ljubljana and Martin Brenner of Sekau, resulted in the near-total expulsion of Protestants from the Slovene lands, save for a small enclave in Prekmurje. Despite this religious reversion, the Protestant legacy interwove with the Catholic counter-reformation of the 17th century, fostering a blended cultural heritage. This enduring legacy was evident in the continued use of the Old Slovene orthography or Bohoric's alphabet, crafted by the Protestants in the 16th century, until its gradual phase out in the mid-19th century. Apart from religious tumult, the period between the 15th and 17th centuries was marked by a series of calamities that befell the Slovene lands. The Ottoman-Habsburg Wars wreaked havoc, particularly in southern Slovenia, with towns like Vipovski Križ and Kostanjevica na Kri bearing the scars of Ottoman devastation. Amidst this chaotic backdrop, the Slovene nobility rallied to combat the Ottoman encroachments, exemplified by the Carniolan noblemen's victory at the Battle of Sisak in 1593. This victory marked a significant, albeit temporary, reprieve from the Ottoman threat, though sporadic raids continued well into the 17th century. The socio-political landscape further trembled with the Croatian-Slovene peasant revolt of 1573, under the leadership of Matija Gubic, spotlighting the broader societal discontent. Additionally, the Slovene territories became the theater of conflict between the Habsburg and Venetian forces during the 16th and 17th centuries, especially during the War of Gradiška. Furthermore, the peasant wars such as the Carinthian Peasant Revolt, 1478, Slovene Peasant Revolt, 1515, Second Slovene Peasant Revolt, 1635, and Tolman Peasant Revolt, 1713, underscored the continual climate of resistance and unrest. As the turmoil of the 17th century subsided towards its end, the Slovene lands experienced a renaissance of intellectual and artistic vigor. The influx of Italian Baroque maestros like Francesco Rabba, Andrea Pozzo, Vittorio Carpaccio, and Giulio Quaglio greatly enriched the architectural and musical tapestry of the region. However, the onset of the 18th century marked a period of stagnation, a lull that was only gradually eclipsed by mid-century, laying a foundation for the further cultural and political evolution in the Slovene lands. This period set the stage for an array of developments that would play a crucial role in shaping the historical and cultural narrative of Slovenia in the centuries to follow. From the era of Enlightenment to the nationalistic movement. The period between the early 18th and early 19th centuries was a time of relative peace and gradual economic recovery in the Slovene lands, especially post-mid-18th century. Trieste's declaration as a free port in 1718 significantly boosted economic activities in the western Slovene lands. The Habsburg rulers, Maria Theresa of Austria and Joseph II, initiated political, administrative, and economic reforms which bettered the peasantry's economic situation and were well acknowledged by the budding bourgeoisie, albeit it remained feeble. Towards the late 18th century, a standardization movement for the Slovene language was launched, propelled by Carniolan clergymen like Marko Polin and Jurij Japel. Concurrently, the Bukovniki movement burgeoned among peasant writers, who embraced and advocated the Slovene vernacular in rural areas. Initially ignited among Carinthian Slovenes, this movement aimed at rejuvenating Slovene literature, which got a significant bolster during the Enlightenment era through the endeavors of the Zois circle. The geopolitical configuration shifted between 1805 and 1813 when the Slovene settled territory was incorporated into the Illyrian provinces under the autonomous governance of the Napoleonic French Empire with Ljubljana as its capital. The brief French dominion immensely contributed to heightening national self-assurance and an awareness of civic liberties among the Slovenes. While not completely dismantling the feudal system, the French introduced various modern administrative reforms including legal equality, mandatory military service for men, a uniform tax regime, among others. They modernized administration, severed the state church powers, and nationalized the judiciary, thereby acquainting the Illyrian provinces' denizens with revolutionary French ideologies and bourgeois society norms. The early 19th century saw an augmentation of Slovene national consciousness, sparked by the romantic depiction of Mount Triglav by Carinthian Slovene painter Marcus Bernhardt. By August 1813, with the Austro-French hostilities escalating, Austrian troops under General Franjo Tomasic invaded the Illyrian provinces, reincorporating the Slovene lands into the Austrian Empire post the brief French interlude. By the way, please remember to hit the like button if you find these snippets of history captivating, and stick around as we unravel more about Slovenia's vibrant narrative. The succeeding decades witnessed a burgeoning Slovene national consciousness and a growing demand for political unification. The 1820s and 1840s were pivotal, marked by an upsurge in interest in Slovene language and folklore, with philologists avidly collecting folk songs and pioneering language standardization efforts. Some Slovene activists, mainly from Styria and Carinthia, were drawn towards the Illyrian movement originating from neighboring Croatia, which envisaged a unification of all South Slavic peoples. The revolutionary fervor of 1848 saw the crystallization of a mass political and populist campaign for a united Slovenia, Zedinjena Slovenia, as part of the Spring of Nations within the Austrian Empire. Despite the project's eventual failure, it established a virtually undisputed platform for Slovene political activism in the ensuing decades, thereby significantly shaping the national and political trajectory of the Slovene lands. Conflicting nationalistic ideologies in the late 19th century. The stretch between 1848 and 1918 saw the burgeoning of Slovene national consciousness and institutional development despite political fragmentation and the lack of proper political representation. This period, known as the Slovene National Awakening, witnessed the establishment of a gamut of institutions encompassing theaters, publishing houses, and an array of political, financial, and cultural organizations. The 1860 Constitution of the Austrian Empire, which ushered in civil and political liberties, further propelled the Slovene national movement. Despite the political schism between the conservative Old Slovenes and the progressive Young Slovenes, there existed a unified advocacy for the cultural and political autonomy of the Slovene populace. Modeled after the Irish monster meetings, a series of mass rallies known as tabori were orchestrated in the late 1860s and early 1870s, rallying support for the United Slovenia program and demonstrating the burgeoning nationalist fervor among the Slovenes. By the century's end, the Slovenes had not only standardized their language but also fostered a thriving civil society, exhibiting one of the highest literacy rates within the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The grassroots level saw a proliferation of national associations, and the idea of a united political entity encompassing all South Slavs, known as Yugoslavia, began to take root. However, the era was also marked by a vehement culture war, predominantly in Carniola, between Catholic traditionalists, integralists and a coalition of liberals, progressivists, and anti-clericals, starting from the 1880s. Also, the unfolding industrialization further heightened social tensions, with both socialist and Christian socialist movements vying for mass mobilization. Remarkably, in 1905, the Slovene mining town of Idrija witnessed the election of the first socialist mayor within the Austro-Hungarian Empire, under the aegis of the Yugoslav Social Democratic Party. Concurrently, Christian socialist activist Janez Evangelist Krek spearheaded the organization of numerous workers and agricultural cooperatives across the Slovene rural landscape. The dawn of the 20th century was characterized by escalating nationalistic confrontations, especially in ethnically diverse regions like Carinthia, Trieste, and Lower Styrian towns. By the 1910s, nationalistic tussles between Slovene and Italian speakers in the Austrian littoral, and between Slovene and German speakers, began to eclipse other political discord, precipitating a nationalist radicalization on all fronts. Furthermore, during this period, the Adriatic port of Trieste morphed into a significant nexus of Slovene economic, cultural, and political activities, with its Slovene populace even surpassing that of Ljubljana by 1910. The turn of the century also witnessed a massive emigration wave of Slovenes, primarily to the United States, but also to other locales like South America, Germany, Egypt, Zagreb, and Vienna. With a staggering estimated 300,000 Slovenes emigrating between 1880 and 1910, this period saw a significant demographic shift, underscoring the extensive and multifaceted challenges and changes the Slovene society was navigating during this tumultuous epoch. Integration into the Yugoslav nation and contention for border regions. The movement towards self-determination led by the Slovene People's Party around the end of World War I marked a significant epoch in the quest for a semi-independent South Slavic state under Habsburg dominion. The resonance of this aspiration among various Slovene political factions culminated in a mass civil society mobilization known as the Declaration Movement. By early 1918, an overwhelming support was evident with more than 200,000 signatures backing the proposal of the Slovene People's Party. During the tumultuous times of World War I, the spirit of camaraderie extended beyond borders as approximately 500 Slovenes volunteered in the Serbian army, while a smaller contingent led by Captain Ljudevit Pivko volunteered in the Italian army. The war-weary Slovene regiments within the Austro-Hungarian army, incensed by the relentless military exigencies, rebelled against their commanders in a series of mutinies, notably the Judenburg Rebellion in May 1918. The fall of the Austro-Hungarian Empire post-World War I paved the way for the National Council of Slovenes, Croats and Serbs to assume power in Zagreb on 6 October 1918. The clamor for independence reached a crescendo on 29 October as a national congregation in Ljubljana and the Croatian parliament heralded the birth of the state of Slovenes, Croats and Serbs. This nascent state amalgamated with Serbia on 1 December 1918, morphing into the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes, later rechristened as the Kingdom of Yugoslavia in 1929. For Slovenes dwelling in territories now under the jurisdiction of Italy, Austria, and Hungary, the transition was marked by assimilation policies. The vacuum left by the disintegration of the Austro-Hungarian Empire spurred a military contention between Slovenes and German Austria over the dominion of Lower Styria and southern Carinthia. In a bold maneuver, Rudolf Meister took control of Maribor and adjacent areas of Lower Styria in November 1918 in the name of the emergent Yugoslav state. Despite the Austrian government of Styria's reluctance for military confrontation, they opposed a plebiscite, aware of the Slovenian ethnic majority in Lower Styria. Ultimately, the Treaty of Saint-Germain favored Yugoslavia, ceding Maribor and Lower Styria to its territory. The skirmishes stretched from December 1918 to June 1919, witnessing the Slovene volunteers in the Serbian army capturing Klagenfurt. However, in adherence to the Treaty of Saint-Germain, Yugoslav forces retreated from Klagenfurt, with a referendum deciding the fate of other sectors of southern Carinthia in October 1920. The majority opted for Austria, leaving only a minor segment, around Dravograd and Gustanj, to the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes. On another frontier, the Treaty of Trianon bequeathed the Slovene-populated Prekmurj region, erstwhile under Hungarian rule since the 10th century, to the Kingdom of Yugoslavia. On the other hand, The geopolitical reshuffling post-World War I under the Treaty of London, 1915, and later the Treaty of Rapallo, 1920, granted the Kingdom of Italy governance over substantial Slovene territories as a reward for siding with the Allied powers. This annexation encompassed a quarter of the Slovene ethnic domain, even areas solely inhabited by Slovenes, affecting approximately 327,000 individuals out of the total 1.3 million Slovenes. The geopolitical machinations of the time left an indelible mark on the Slovene populace and their quest for self-determination. Kingdom of Yugoslavia. In 1921, within the newly established Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, a centralist constitution was passed against the vote of a substantial majority, 70%, of Slovene MPs. Despite this imposition, Slovenia managed to sustain a high level of cultural autonomy, and its economy along with the arts flourished during the interwar period. However, the kingdom was rechristened as the Kingdom of Yugoslavia in 1929, intensifying the centralist pressures and renaming Slovenia to Drava Banovina. The year 1935 saw the Slovene People's Party joining the pro-regime Yugoslav radical community, paving the way for a left-wing autonomist movement. The economic crisis of the 1930s fostered the rise of both leftist and rightist radicalisms, with the Communist Party of Slovenia being established in 1937. By the late 1930s, Slovenia had become a significant industrial center within Yugoslavia, with industrial production notably higher compared to other regions like Serbia and Vardar Banovina. The urban areas, especially around Ljubljana and Maribor, experienced extensive modernization and urban renewal. The annexation of a portion of Slovene ethnic territory by Fascist Italy post-World War I, under the Treaty of Rapallo in 1920, led to forced Italianization affecting around 327,000 Slovenes. Trieste, a city with a significant Slovene population, experienced a spate of anti-Slovene actions led by fascist black shirts. By the mid-1930s, several thousand Slovenes, especially from the Trieste region, emigrated to Yugoslavia and South America to escape fascist repression. The burning of the Slovenian National Hall in Trieste in 1920 was a notable event, followed by the formation of the militant anti-fascist organization TIGR in 1927 to combat fascist violence. The onset of World War II in 1940 increased pressure on Yugoslavia to align with Axis powers, culminating in an invasion by Axis forces on April 6, 1941, after a coup d'état in Yugoslavia on March 27, 1941. The invasion resulted in different parts of Slovenia being occupied by Germany, Italy, and Hungary. Amidst occupation, Slovenes established the Anti-Imperialist Front on April 26, 1941, renamed Liberation Front, to resist the occupiers, marking the inception of organized resistance. The front was primarily led by the Communist Party of Slovenia, Christian Socialists, and other democratic forces. The culmination of the war in 1945 saw the Slovene Partisan Army, alongside the Yugoslav Army and the Soviet Red Army, liberate the entire Slovenian ethnic territory from Axis occupation. Post-liberation, however, was marred by a wave of extrajudicial killings orchestrated by communist authorities, indicative of the deep-seated tensions that transitioned into the post-war period. Through these tumultuous decades, the endeavor for Slovenian autonomy and cultural identity remained a resilient endeavor amidst a backdrop of shifting geopolitical landscapes. Slovenia during the era of Titoist Yugoslavia. Post-World War II, Slovenia became a part of the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia on November 29, 1943. Despite the establishment of a socialist state, the rift between Tito and Stalin ensured a comparatively liberal economic and personal freedom compared to the Eastern Bloc. In 1947, under the Treaty of Paris, Italy relinquished most of the Julian March to Yugoslavia, thus reinstating the Slovenian littoral to Slovenia. This period witnessed a substantial exodus of ethnic Italians, primarily from the urban enclaves of Koper, Izola, and Piran, due to fears of communist repression and retaliation for Italian war crimes. The contention surrounding the port of Trieste lingered until 1954, when the Free Territory of Trieste was divided between Italy and Yugoslavia, providing Slovenia access to the sea, a division ratified by the Treaty of Osimo in 1975. The 1950s saw Slovenia enjoying a relative autonomy within Yugoslavia, marked by a surge in industrialization. Slovenia embarked on a path of relative pluralization in the late 1950s, sparking a decade of industrial advancement accompanied by vibrant cultural and literary production, despite existing tensions between the regime and dissenting intellectuals. By the late 1960s, reformists within the Slovenian Communist Party began launching modernization reforms, with a new economic policy of workers' self-management under the guidance of Edvard Kardelj. The trend halted in 1973 when conservative factions within the Slovenian Communist Party, backed by the Yugoslav federal government, ushered in a period known as the Years of Lead, marked by increased censorship and repression. The 1980s were characterized by a burgeoning cultural pluralism with political, artistic, and intellectual movements paving the way for market socialism and controlled political pluralism under the leadership of Milan Kučan. The Yugoslav economic crisis of the 1980s exacerbated the existing disputes regarding economic policies, with Slovenia contributing significantly to Yugoslavia's GDP despite its small population. The discontent burgeoned into a civil society movement by the late 1980s, known as the Slovene Spring, calling for democratization and greater independence for Slovenia, predating the 1989 Eastern European revolutions. The discord between the Slovenian and Serbian leagues of communists intensified, laying the groundwork for secessionist ideologies among Slovenes. A milestone was achieved on September 27, 1989, when the Slovenian Assembly passed amendments to the 1974 constitution, undermining the political monopoly of the League of Communists of Slovenia and paving the way for Slovenia's exit from Yugoslavia. The political rift manifested physically on December 1, 1989, during Action North, when Slovene police thwarted Milosevic's supporters from convening a rally in Ljubljana. The dismantling of the League of Communists of Yugoslavia commenced on January 23, 1990, when the League of Communists of Slovenia exited the 14th Congress, followed by the League of Communists of Croatia. Constitutional amendments introduced parliamentary democracy in Slovenia in September 1989, and on March 7, 1990, the official name of the state was changed to the Republic of Slovenia, discarding the term socialist, and marking a definitive step towards independence from Yugoslavia. Republic of Slovenia. In December 1989, a significant political change unfolded in Slovenia as the nation opened up to multi-party democracy by permitting the participation of opposition parties in the elections slated for spring 1990. The journey towards independence materialized when over 88% of Slovenians voted in favor of secession from Yugoslavia in a referendum held on December 23, 1990. Following the affirmative vote, Slovenia declared independence on June 25, 1991, which unfortunately triggered a brief but intense 10-day war with the Yugoslav forces. Despite the conflict, Slovenian forces successfully defended their newly declared sovereignty, setting the nation on a path of self-governance and international recognition. Under the premiership of Janez Drnovšek, Slovenia began to shift its trade focus from its former Yugoslav partners towards the Western markets. This period saw the beginning of economic transitions that were carried out in a gradual manner, distinguishing Slovenia from some other Eastern European nations that opted for rapid economic reforms. Drnovšek's pragmatic approach laid the foundation for economic stabilization and integration with Western institutions. In March and May 2004, Slovenia achieved significant milestones by joining NATO and the European Union, respectively, under the leadership of President Drnovšek. These memberships marked Slovenia's increasing alignment with Western political and economic structures, enhancing its regional and global standing. The political scene in Slovenia witnessed a series of transitions with Janez Janša and Borut Pahor serving as prime ministers in different terms. During Pahor's term, the country faced challenges in implementing economic reforms due to opposition and referendum blockades. However, it was during this period that Slovenia managed to join the Organization for Economic County Operation and Development, OECD, in 2010. In March 2020, amidst a global economic downturn, Janez Janša returned as the prime minister, aligning himself with right-wing populist ideologies. His term, however, was short-lived as a liberal opposition party, the Freedom Movement, won the parliamentary elections in April 2022, leading to the appointment of Robert Golob as the new Prime Minister of Slovenia. A historical political milestone was achieved in November 2022 when Nataša Pirc Musar emerged victorious in the presidential election, becoming Slovenia's first female president. She succeeded Borut Pahor and assumed office on December 23, 2022, symbolizing a significant moment in Slovenia's democratic evolution and its commitment to gender inclusivity in political leadership. As we are concluding this video, it's evident that the journey of Slovenia from a member of Yugoslavia to a sovereign state, and its various political phases, are reflective of a nation committed to democratic principles and continuous growth. Each political tenure, regardless of its challenges, contributed to shaping the modern-day Slovenia, aligning it progressively with global standards. I hope you found this video informative and engaging. I want to extend our sincerest gratitude for staying with us throughout this video. Your attention and support are highly appreciated. Please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with others who might find it interesting. We always strive to bring you well-researched and enlightening content, and your engagement significantly contributes to our mission. Until next time, thank you once again for tuning in.